Not as much as before, because now I feel like I'm doing something now with the gathering. So putting all that together, these remains, the ancestors, finding out all this ancient knowledge, I thought, okay, we need to have some kind of women's gathering or something, some kind of healing, some kind of understanding. We need to put an end to the murdered and missing woman. But how could we do that? I mean, we can't change people's behaviors. What we need to do is we need to strengthen our women spiritually. We need to let them know that they are sacred, that we are sacred. Women are sacred. Women are the life givers. Women are connected to Grandmother Moon through their moon time. Women are connected to the water because, you know, the women, when they're pregnant, they have their water and the babies are in the water. So, you know, water and women are connected. And we're made of water, too, you know, men and women. So, you know, women are the sacred portal to the spirit world because it's the spirit that comes through the woman, and the woman gives birth to this person, this spirit comes out of her. So the women are like the portals to the spirit world. Do you know what I mean?
I do. There's actually...
Yes, the women are the portals. And when I say that to people, it's like, wow, that's really true. I never really thought of it that way.
There are several tarot cards that are actually, they depict that exact thing, that only through woman can you really get to the spirit world.
Yes.
That they are the vessels for that.
Yes, we are. And the woman is so sacred. And so our women, the women that have been weakened and broken and vulnerable, they leave themselves open to darkness and being in danger. And so I took my vision to a couple of my sisters, my elder sisters, my relative, and I told her, I said, you know, we need to, you know, give these young girls their names. They need to have their spirit names. They need to know their clan. We need to have ceremonies. We need to have a berry fast, because the berry fast is a ceremony when the girls, it's a rites of passage from becoming a woman. So when they first start their moon time, what we did was have a ceremony for her. Sometimes they would get a new name, and they'd go on a berry fast for a year. And the reason why they would go on a berry fast, because these berries represent, like the seeds and the berries represent the woman carrying the seeds of life. So it would be sort of like a discipline. They would not eat berries for a year, nothing with berries. And I put my daughter through that, too. And I also put her out to Vision Quest just before her moon time and then after her moon time.
Wow.
I put her out on a Vision Quest. So she put her out into the bush by herself, and, you know, she got her vision. Also put her on a berry fast for a year as well. And so we did that. The fathers would usually make a lodge, like a small little lodge. So when their daughter had their first moon time, they would sit inside that lodge, and they would just sit on moss and just let their moon time drain onto the moss and back into the earth. And they would sit there, have their visions, and then the woman in the community or in the tribe or village, the aunties, the grandmothers, and the mother would come take care of her, feed her, comb her hair, wash her up, and they would talk to her, prepare her. But we've lost that. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah, 'cause my thought, too, was I wonder if they kind of all shared the same time, approximately, back in those days, too. I would think that the women would be more in tune with the moon cycles and water and all that. So I wonder if they would, you know, given a few days here and there, would the women of a certain band that's, or not necessarily a tribe, because they could be all over, but of a band.
Of a band? We never had bands before, up until the 1900s.
Wow, it's just...
Did you know that?
No. No, I thought there was different kinds of bands. Maybe not for every tribe, but like when I say bands, I mean like groups of people. Because not everybody was part of one place, right?
Right. Did you know that we didn't have reservations before the 1900s?
Well,
of course, right? Did you know that reserves, that people were placed onto reserves by the government? That we could, because we were nomads, that we traveled. We didn't stay in one place.
Yeah.
We didn't have reserves, and that's part of the colonization.
Yeah.
And then that's part of the division and the separation.
Yeah.
For myself, I didn't grow up on the reserve. And so for me, in my upbringing, it was difficult because, we lived in Winnipeg, but then again, I'm thankful because I'm able to expand my thinking and my awareness and to comprehend things. So in the early 1900s, the people were placed onto reserves, and they weren't allowed to leave the reserves. This has to do with the area as well. So in the early 1900s, when the people were put onto the reserves, they had to get permission from the government, from the Indian agent, to leave the reserve. So the sacred site also became a place that was vulnerable because no one was able to go there anymore to have the great gatherings and the great ceremonies that we always had for thousands of years. And so they found the area, I think I found a newspaper article, I think something like 1930s or something, and they called it a museum, a native museum found in the White Shell. It's not a museum. It was a place where the people, and not just Anishinaabe people, but all the different nations of people would come here to this sacred site and have great gatherings and great ceremonies, as well as the place became vulnerable because no one was going there anymore because people couldn't leave the reserves. And then the children were put into residential schools. And then we became colonized. And then people started going to church, or people just started trying to make a living and not really coming out to the area. So now the area is a place of, it's a tourist attraction now, sort of like a museum-ish kind of thing. But that's, in spirit, that's not what it is.
Oh, God, no, it's an activator.
Yeah.
It's activated, that's for sure.
Yeah. So this is why, it became vulnerable. They built the hydro dam. They built the nuclear reactor in Penawa. They turned, the sacred site into sort of like a tourist attraction. They dug up the remains of ancestors, took them to storage vaults at the University of Winnipeg and Manitoba. So there's been a lot of desecration.
I didn't know that there was a nuclear reactor out here.
Yeah,
at
in
some
Penawa.
point. Geez, I wonder if that's what it was I felt. I've never been around anything radioactive before.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had no clue.
Yep.
Is it still working, or is it closed, shut down? Do you know?
It's shut down. It's not an operation. It's shut down, but they do watch over it and take care of it. And
wow, I had no clue.
Yeah. So a lot has happened, but you know what? I've had people who said, "Well, why didn't you people take care of your area?" Well, because the people were prisoners on the reserve. They couldn't leave. And not only that, it was during that time when they were put onto the reservations that the ceremonies were outlawed, the clan mothers were outlawed. So
speaking the language was outlawed.
Yes, they couldn't speak. The children were taken away. They were put into residential schools. They were taken away from their families. They were abused. So much has happened to the people. There was so much darkness. But anyways, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, the darkness is in a way a light to the light.
It is.
If that makes sense.
It is. We're at a new time, and it has to do as well with the prophecies and the ending of the Mayan calendar, because the ending of the Mayan calendar was that maybe 2 years ago,
2012.
And that was a time when everything happened, on the earth. People thought it was going to be the end of the world, but what it was, it's a new beginning, and people are waking up. And that's when we found the ancestors too.
Isn't that interesting?
We found and then I don't know more was happening.
That was
so
big.
There was all kinds of revolutions going on in the world. There was people couldn't sleep.
Yeah, well, I'm still there. Dang.
Yeah,
I miss
couldn't
sleep. I used to do a lot of lucid dreaming too. So I love my sleep. Now it's been, well, ever since I've been in Winnipeg, I always thought that the universe has a cruel sense of, not a cruel, but a humorous sense of humor or something, because I don't like the cold. A woman comes along and here I am in Winnipeg.
Yep. The universe loves you. The universe loves us.
I know. I jest, of course, but
it's what you put out there.
Yeah, it is. And I've always come from the philosophy of, I came to this when I was 17, that I surrounded myself to the universe and saying that I'm pretty stupid, so take me where I need to be. You know more than I do, so I'm just along for the ride. And I got this trust. People kind of look at me strangely because I never have a lot of money. And, my passions are other things. Like in the old days, I did a lot of gatherings. I ran with old Billy, and you got to be able to surrender to the universe and allow it to take you where you most need to be. And when you have that trust in the universe, it will never let you down.
No, you're right. That's so true. Because, during this winter, I had a difficult time. And people do during the winter because there's hardly any sun and you're not really outside as much and you're not doing your earthing, your gardening, or spending time outdoors.
I had a hard one this winter, too.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I brought in, I started planting things inside. I brought in some rocks. I even slept with rocks on my feet and just got some cedar and drinking, medicines and, things like that, and working on eating properly, things that grow from the earth. So that's earthing as well when we're eating food that is grown from the earth, carrots, beets, or you're drinking teas like cedar or sweetgrass or Labrador tea, or, we have all kinds of teas that we can make. So, all those things, that is part of earthing. I know that right now, what is happening in science, they have these earthing products that are being sold. And, it's kind of like a new thing, like earthing. You've probably heard about it. And I was watching this documentary on earthing, and this guy in Alaska discovered, earthing.
Okay.
He said he discovered it, but, in the beginning of the documentary, he was talking about the ancient people, the ancient indigenous people. They always knew that, and it's true. We always knew that. I always knew that. But here, this guy, so he started connecting these wires to his plants indoors because he said he was shoveling all this snow and his body ached. And what he did was underneath the porch of his house, he dug a hole. And he went into the hole, and he laid in there for 20 minutes. And the next day, all the ache was gone. And he said, hey, I discovered something, earthing, grounding. But, we always knew that. We always knew to connect with Mother Earth, that because she has an energy field. And with our ancestors, in this energy field, we have their ancient knowledge as well.
Definitely.
So they need to be put back to the earth because in that energy field, we can pick up on that ancient knowledge. And I was told as well by several people, and I've heard it over and over, that all the information and all the knowledge in the universe, we already know. We already know that we're 1 billion years old, but we already know. It's just that we need to hear that information 2 or 3 times. We need to hear it 2 or 3 times from someone just for it to click in. Like, oh, okay, I knew that. For some reason, I knew that.
Yeah.
So this ancestor and all this ancientness, for me to put it back out into the universe, to be on this radio show, is for everyone to wake up and to hear what I'm saying, because this is what I come to understand from these ancestors. And it was from finding this ancient ancestor was the starting of the Mother Earth Gathering Women of All Nations.